Welcome to another Kickin with Sensei, and today we're joined by Kieran of Makenji Martial Arts, a great martial artist and YouTuber. There's some great content on YouTube there. And if you'd like to give the audience a little bit of introduction to yourself, Kieran, and your background in martial arts.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to, Sensei Emmett. So, my name is Kieran. My martial arts journey started technically, just about when I was, would have been said about 6. So this is when I was, I guess you could say, inspired to start training. So I used to, I still do, big fan of video games. We used to play the same game for hours and hours. And the first lot of video games that me and my brother used to play were fighting games. Video game series called Kickin. I mean, they do base their characters off real martial arts styles. And I thought, wow, this looks incredible. This looks amazing. Like, how do they move like that? How do they do this? They look so strong, etc., etc. So I thought, I really want to start martial arts. I want to learn how to fight. I want to be these people. So didn't start until years later, until I think my parents probably said, yes, you can. We found a martial arts class that you could probably go to. And it was their friend's class. He ran a taekwondo class. He was very... ITF style taekwondo. It was very, very strict, very strict indeed. He was a little bit of a, I don't want to say the word, not on the podcast, but he was a very tough individual on other people. Not to say he was a tough person himself, but anyway, I'm rambling. So I've been training. I trained with him for a good 4 years at least. And then I left, and then because he stopped his martial arts classes, he ran into some difficulties in trying to find halls. At one point, we were just training barefoot in his back garden to toughen up our feet. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those cuts never went away. But then I started training with his instructor, if you like, so the head of the organization. Trained with him for another 4 years, give or take. I got my first degree black belt. I was basically his assistant for the Tuesday class. I took that most of the time. Used to help out with the kids class. Never again am I helping out with the kids class. That was too much. That was too much. From there, I literally had to leave because work hours didn't give me enough time to get to the training hall. So instead, my boss, she did a kickboxing club. So I thought, okay, I'll try this out. And I did it for a good, I want to say 3, maybe 4 months. So kickboxing training, it was fun. It was good. Me being me, I miss dressing up in the angry training pajamas. So I thought, I don't get to dress up here. It's all just tracksuits and stuff. So I thought, I remember because my driving instructor, Sensei Brian Bates, is also a karate instructor. So I thought, hang on, I'll give him a message. I'll see if he's still got his class going. He did, and I've been training with him ever since. And in between, I've done different training with different karate seminars, different karate practitioners. I trained Japanese jiu-jitsu for about half a year, but gave that up. It didn't really feel as exciting to me. And quite recently I started, or before lockdown, started judo. So that was to help supplement my karate training. See, we do a fair amount of stand-up grappling in our karate classes, but one thing that I did seem to struggle with was throwing. So Brian said, yep, there's a great judo class around the corner, check it out. And I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with it first session. So really enjoyed that. In between, I've done all sorts of little competitions and stuff. When I used to do taekwondo, we used to have international competitions. Used to do all right in them. Used to get absolutely destroyed in the last fight, but hey ho, that's all good fun. But no, I've done that. Done all sorts of seminars around. I was meant to go to Canada to train with a friend. I believe you've interviewed him, Chris Hansen.
Oh yeah, Chris. Yeah,
was literally meant to go and train with him, but then a week before I was supposed to go, hang on, there's this new virus in the UK. Restrictions might be in place. So, oh god, because we looked at all the things, and it was a case of, if I did go, I would have been had to quarantining there for about 2 weeks. I was only meant to be there for about 5 days. So it's okay. Okay, yeah, I can quarantine there, but I'll be sort of like in a back alley somewhere. So I don't think that really counts.
Yeah, that's it. No. I was very much the same now. Just before COVID, I was actually asked to go out and do a seminar in Florida, but it just so happens me and the wife and kids, we had actually booked a holiday in Florida, and they were looking for it at the same time, and it was only 2 days. So, by the first time I would have went overseas to teach, and I wasn't too sure because I had the holiday booked and it was family time, and then it was more or less offered half the price of the holiday. So I was tempted, kind of agreed to do it, and then COVID hit and the whole thing fell apart. So
Yeah,
it's had a lot of martial arts clubs now. It's
yeah, it has been quite detrimental. I mean, because martial artists, we have to be in a room to physically grab or hit and throw or whatever to each other. That has to be physical contact. And for so long, I remember restrictions were to the point where we were only allowed to leave the house once a day.
Yeah.
I remember seeing so many posts of, what will happen when Boris Johnson catches you outside your house for the second time in the day. And it's that bit clip of him at a football match in Wembley Stadium. He just goes up and tackles the bloke straight away.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have taken to over COVID is Kata. And I've watched a video on your channel now. You have a very interesting view towards Kata. That it's simply shadow boxing.
Yeah, no.
Could you expand a wee bit on that? But...
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll more than happily rant about this. So, Kata, I mean, I'll say right now, I'm no expert on Japanese culture, but from my understanding, there are katas to everything. So kata, let's just say forms or methods. So there's a kata for how you greet people. There's a kata for how you never wear outside shoes in any kind of building, even public buildings. You take your shoes off and you put on slippers. There's a kata for how you eat. You say itadakimasu, so thank you for the meal when you start eating, and you say goshiso sama deshita when you finish eating. So there's always a set thing. And kata is just again, following that same overly formal way of doing things, it's just an overly formal way of shadow boxing.
Yeah.
The difference here is, I suppose, the more Western version of shadow boxing, it's more free flowing. You go from one to the next, you've got specific combos you've got in mind, but you could literally just say, oh, your jab cross, that's kata 1, that's kata 2.
Yeah.
But the difference is in Okinawan, Japanese and Chinese systems, they're a lot longer. Yeah. So because it's kata's, it's always a weird one. I think that we can quite literally do without kata. Yeah. We can do without it, but then there are always these little arguments. So I think, do you watch Kenfu TV?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, Ken Knight, really good channel. He released a video the other day saying that Kata does provide a syllabus for certain arts. Okay, so to teach it and carry it on, there's Hian or Pinan for karate, Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, etc. So that is the art effectively stored within this overly formal set of shadow boxing. But then at the same time, you look at boxing, kickboxing, there might be 1-2 hook, 1-2 roundhouse. Again, those are combinations. Kata, which will still get taught again to the next generation, that they don't go away.
Yeah.
So I think that kata, it does have its place, but we can do without it.
Yeah.
So recently I started going to, well, I said I went to judo, and quite recently I started taking a look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, went to a BJJ gym. It's so much fun. Although no one told me how much my muscles would be screaming in exhaustion after. But everything they do, it's hands-on. It's never, oh, you stand there and you practice this for 2 hours. It's everything. You adapt to your opponents, you feel them out, you get used to the pressure. And I think that's in itself, getting used to pressure, being pressure from first day, that will create a, how to put it, a martial artist who's not too afraid to get into that sort of tangle as they go forwards. But at the same time, people who are more attracted to the kata-based way of practicing, it does mean that you are not used to that pressure. You're not used to the feeling of another human being. You're not used to that, okay, I've got to do this now, I've got to move now, otherwise A, B, or C is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, if you, like I said, we can do without kata, because a lot of, especially with my old taekwondo classes, the kata there, I mean, people were black belts. I got to my black belt, but my black belt was more or less in following orders and doing kata to the best possible way. So technically, people can, by that logic, people can train at home. I've seen loads of posts online, people trying to start karate or martial arts at home. They'll do the kata, but that's all they'll ever be able to do because they don't have that other person there. If they don't get that other person there, then they won't actually understand what it's for. But sorry, I'm just trying to recollect that thought. It was there a second ago. Oh God, where did it go? Yeah, so so a lot, like I said, with my taekwondo, I'm assuming a lot of other 3K martial arts schools out there, Kieran, Kata, Kumite, they only ever practice the 3. If it's just about learning the next kata for your next belt, people are learning kata at home. You don't need an instructor. You can give yourself a black belt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, forget the belt. It's a piece of cloth, but it's effectively saying, oh, yes, I am a master in this system because this system is only ever about solo training.
Yeah. Definitely. And I've noticed kata seems to, well, not just kata, but you've got taekwondo as well. Like you've got Pomse for that. But it seems to be very international, with every system has some form of it. Like I know even hula dancing as a form of kata for Luya. It's a Hawaiian martial art.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's I think Luya would be, I think it's one of the most deadliest martial arts ever created. Like it is real bone breaking kind of stuff. And but it's very interesting. But it's, you could kind of go around and learn all these forms and technically class yourself as a black belt in all these different systems, but you're unable to sort of do it with a partner really then at that stage. So it does make a lot of sense that you have to have the live training. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I went through a period of time where I was thinking, you know, okay, because the karate I practice is Shotokan based, but when we were doing a bit more close to formal Shotokan, it was a case of, okay, we call them hyans, but why do they call them pinans? Or why do we call the kata teki when people over there are calling it naihanshi? So I did go through a phase of like, hang on, we aren't doing this right. Are we not doing this right? But then it was also a case of, it doesn't really matter what we called the kata, because we were still able to use that for its combative techniques, its principles, whatever you want to call it. We were still able to use that to learn how to fight, or rather extract pieces from that to use in a fight. So it's that kata hunting thing. I mean, I don't like that anymore. I mean, I think everyone does, not everyone, but people do go through a phase for that, but it's not really that important. I mean, you can call it mashed potato and sausage form 1 if you want, Coca-Cola versus Pepsi 2 or whatever. It doesn't matter. No. It doesn't matter. It's something from a different age, from a different time that we are trying to use and understand to teach people to fight, or trying to teach ourselves to fight.
Yeah. And talking of different times now, so it's another video you put up there recently, and something I never knew, and I've been training martial arts for over 2 decades, is that a lot of martial arts, what we call masters, would have been in the red light district, kind of honing their skills. And do you think that played a big part in the development of martial arts?
100%, 200%. Forget 100. That's not worth it anymore. Absolutely. I mean, if you think about, I mean, this again, I'm no major historian on jiu-jitsu, but if I remember right, with because you're a Japanese jiu-jitsu quite heavily.
Yeah.
That did come about teach when samurai, they go off to war, they come back, they don't have a job. Some went to farming, others went to teach civilians their fighting techniques.
Yeah.
And wasn't that partly how jiu-jitsu came about?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So with karate, it was a case of, okay, we've got this island called Okinawa. It became a major trading hub because it was just on the south of Japan, and it's the closest thing to China and the rest of continental Asia. So the theory goes that, okay, so we've had this person from this part of China move across. They might just be a merchant, or they might have been a fighter, or who they might have been a soldier from previous wars. And that happens all around with different parts of Asia. They'll all come around, all come together, and basically a melting pot of culture. I remember watching Jesse Encamp's Karate Nerd in Okinawa. He was going around Shuri Castle and he's saying, oh, they had all this here, they had all that there because of the Chinese influences.
Yeah.
Like fashion was quite a big influence as well. Fashion, culture, languages. I remember reading Gichin Funakoshi used to study Chinese and Japanese classics. Now, I don't know what he meant by classics, but he did study parts of something from China.
Yeah.
And you can imagine this big melting pot of culture. And on the one side, we also have the martial arts part of it as well. So now, one theory that I had, which I was saying to a friend the other day, in karate, we have there's this concept called hikite. So grab, pull back to your hip, and strike. So it's meant to be literally pulling someone onto your punch, or it could be grabbing someone here and going punch, punch. So one of my theories was, okay, you're going to have all sorts of people there moving to Okinawa. So you've got royalty, and you've got just your average fishermen, merchants, and the red light district where people like to drink and have a good time. So one of my theories behind the hikite is, okay, I'm drunk, I'm stumbling, I'm having a fight with this guy, I've got no coordination, boom, I've grabbed onto you, you're my stability post now, you're going to get this until we both fall down and pass out and do the same thing again when we wake up in a few hours. So
there was some crazy stories about that sort of generation of masters as well. About Master Yama knocking out a bull with punching.
Yes. No, I did. I actually had a theory on that one. The fight of that is recorded, but I've heard someone say, and again, I'm no expert on cattle, but that wasn't a bull. That was like a form of cow. That was a type of cattle. It wasn't a full-on raging bull that you see in Old Town Mexico or whatever. You know, it wasn't that. And apparently it was also stabbed or cut beforehand to get some sort of fear response out of it as well. And then Masoyama just did the rest. I mean, animal rights abuses aside, Masoyama did, I suppose he did want to promote his art as much as he possibly could. Yeah. I don't know that too much about Masoyama, to be fair. I've heard stories where he said he went to go train in the mountains by himself for years. Occasionally he was joined by people to check up on him to make sure he was still alive. Again, these are just stories I've heard. I'm no historian. But was it really that necessary to do all that? I mean, yeah, sure, he wanted to become a strong human being, but there are better ways of doing it. See, that's what I was saying towards the end of my last video, is that we've got better martial artists now. Despite what people might think, living 100 or 200 years ago was difficult, but because back then it was more or less work, eat, sleep, and repeat for most people. That was life. Now we've got, some people might not exactly be the same mindset as them, but we have better athletes, we've got faster people, we've got stronger people. I mean, try and put Masoyama in front of a Olympic barbell right next to the Olympic world lifters, and I don't think he'd do so well. And another thing that I also said was, like, imagine the health implications of that. Imagine living by yourself with very little in, I don't know, in the mountains somewhere, and that. Imagine all the injuries you might get, the lack of social interaction as well. Humans are social animals, so I've heard. So all of that would definitely damage his mental health. But it's a case of we've got better methods. We know how to eat better now. We know that we actually need fruit and vegetables, and that should make up a good portion of our diets.
Yeah.
We know we need to have this amount of fat, this amount of protein. But people back then, well, A, they didn't know, B, they probably couldn't even afford all of it. So nowadays, I think martial artists, especially with all the culminated knowledge from information sharing over the internet, has resulted in better, more knowledgeable, better equipped, and well, what's another description I could use? Just better.
Yeah, it's more scientific. It's we have a lot more knowledge now than than our predecessors would have had. So
yeah,
but,
and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I always think of the stories we hear about these masters, and imagine the two kids in a schoolyard. My dad's bigger than your dad, and I think a lot of stories might have been exaggerated through that kind of method, that my sensei is better than yours. But it's always been a theory playing in my head. Were they this strong and this capable of doing the things that they said they were doing at the time? But it's
yeah, I mean, naturally, any story throughout history gets embellished to the point where you can't tell fact from fiction anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, even just look at the word history. History is his and then story minus one S. It's the story of the victor, the story of the most important person at the time. And that, depending on I suppose, the country and the culture, which person, which his at the time story was more important, which story got round faster, and which story could be embellished easier.
And I know you've practiced a lot of different martial arts, but is there any martial art out there that you'd like to give a go? Can I try?
Ooh, okay. So, like I said recently, I started BJJ. That has been on my mind for quite some time. It's a case of everyone saying, "Oh, try combat sports are the best. Combat sports are the best." Now, forget all the traditional stuff. Okay, I see where they're coming from, because they probably went to a bad traditional school. But it's also a case of, I'm 24 years old now. I've only got so many years where I can train at 200% for my, because I've been told many times by many different people, well, when I hit my 30s, it's going to be a different game. So
I can back that up.
While I'm still in my 20s, I want to do as much as I possibly can of heavy and hard training in what is currently defined as combat sports, BJJ. Maybe in a few years, I might want to try out Muay Thai, who knows? But right now, BJJ works for me because it's a case of I can do all the grappling and everything, but I'm less likely to get a black eye. So if I work as an accountant, believe it or not. So if I turn up to the office one day with a black eye, I'd be like, "Are you all right?" Just all that sort of thing. So it wouldn't look great, but
that's understandable. Now, I know I done combat sports to start with, boxing and kickboxing and things, but I became a father at 19, so that kind of put a big stop at that. Once my daughter started to go to school, I didn't want to be picking her up at school with black eyes, as you say, and things like that. But I found combat sports are great when you're sort of up to 30, and it's great to have traditional then to go on to after that to kind of keep the sort of love for the martial arts going throughout life then. But I know I'm 36 now, I'm not fit for kickboxing anymore. It's
all right.
It's just, well, I probably could give it a go for another 2-3 years, but I know it's coming to an end now. But what is it you love most about the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I get my ass beat. No, that is it. I spend so long in karate. I mean, sure, I'm no master. That there are many things that I need to adjust in karate, but it is a point where I know enough to be able to do, and to be able to go on YouTube and rant for 5 minutes or whatever, however long my videos are. it's okay, but with BJJ and with judo as well, it's a case of, okay, to make these work, you have to experience them. No kata, no solo training. It's almost constant pressure testing when you are sparring. I mean, yeah, there's drilling when you've got free range to do. You've got a compliant partner, but then compliant partner isn't exactly realistic. I mean, then again, realistic what for? Am I looking to defend myself in a street fight, or am I looking to become the next UFC champion? Who knows? But with BJJ, it does follow it on from I mean, technically in the lineage line, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, then BJJ. I mean, that's how it goes. So it does with training karate, judo, and BJJ. I think that's whilst it's 3 days a week, it is. I've got karate for my stand-up, grappling, my striking, a lot of heavy hitting stuff. Then I've got judo for basically putting people on the ground. Then you've got BJJ for while you're on the ground. So it's quite a nice flow system there. Again, I haven't got that much experience in judo and BJJ. I am fairly new at them, so I'm definitely going to be carrying them on for as long as I possibly can. But it's also a case of, oh, I'm doing this, but hang on, he just did that while that person was on the ground to get an armbar. That's the same as that kata in karate.
Yeah.
But they've actually got a live human being with them. So it is a case of, oh, there's so much crossover, it's unreal. I mean, you see one thing in one art, then you'll see another thing in another completely different art as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot now with coming from a jiu-jitsu background and going on with style very similar to judo. There's a lot of crossover, but even trying a bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I've even noticed crossover in that as well. But usually you're horizontal with the judo, but it's just on the ground with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But I've noticed even going on and training with kickboxers again now, and a lot of them are doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu as well to complement their kickboxing. But I've noticed they won't go into a clinch or anything with me because of the judo background.
Oh, right.
They want to keep the distance. But it's very interesting to see how they all work together.
No, they definitely do. I mean, like I said before, you've interviewed Chris Hansen. He's massive on cross training. He did get me in that mind of thinking, you know what, there is this here, there is that there, as well as my own instructor. So there is the thing is, we call this martial arts system from Okinawa karate. We call this martial arts system from Japan jiu-jitsu. We call this type of martial arts system from France savate. It's all, I'm going to quote my instructor here, Sensei Brian Bates, it's all just movements. It is everything. The human body, I can only move my hand in this way, the whole way through. That's the whole range of motion. I can move my wrist this way. I can bend my arm this way. Nowhere on earth do human beings have more than two arms that work well. You know, I mean, that's a Mortal Kombat character there, I'm pretty sure. But it's a case of every martial art at some point in history would have looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because we've only got other human beings to play with. I mean, that is it. And I mean, until aliens get here, I don't think we really need a change. But
start training for the cyborgs. But
ooh,
interesting. And finally, as a karate guy, I would have to ask you this. We're all big fans of Cobra Kai series, but would you be more of a Miyagi-Do or a Cobra Kai?
That is a very, very good question. So let me just break that down. So if we're talking Miyagi-Do, we're talking more kata-based, we're talking more, what's it called again? More, I suppose, defensive, more, I suppose, more into that idea of a wise master stereotype, for example. Yeah. On the other hand, we've got Cobra Kai, which is more hard hitting. You do A, B, and C. It's heavy, hard training. I remember in the first season, to teach Miguel to kick, Johnny threw him in the pool, tied weights around his legs, and told him to kick up, or you're going to drown.
Yeah.
So it is that is again another extreme of training. I mean, training to the extreme can be quite detrimental. I remember seeing just a little bit of a side note. It was a judo club. This happened earlier in the year, but the story got updated quite recently. It was a judo club. The instructor, I don't know if it was him or he forced another student to throw this kid on the ground again and again and again. He was thrown so many times. Really, really nasty story.
Yeah.
And the kid that was thrown on the ground, he ended up going to hospital and taken to the ICU recently, and it's quite sad to hear that it's taken off his life support.
Yeah, I've seen that story now, and I've noticed there's a lot of other stories that have come up that have happened over the years. That's very similar stories, and it's I think now with social media, it's so public. It's great to have that kind of platform there to actually show that this can happen, and it's terrible now. And
sorry, I didn't actually answer the question. Sorry. So Cobra Kai or Miyagi-Do? Only one answer: Eagle Fang. Eagle Fang all the way, because that is a point where Johnny actually he has learned some from Daniel, and he has moved away from that horrible, kick or die methods that Kreese taught him, and he's become his own person.
Great answer. I think you're the first person out of about 50 I've asked to say Eagle Fang, but I've only had one Cobra Kai as well. So.
All right.
So it was very interesting. And how can people find you online?
I have a YouTube channel. It's called Kenji Martial Arts. From there, you can also find me on Instagram and on Facebook as well. I don't exactly remember what the handles are, but Kenji Martial Arts, Kenji, as it says on the screen, and then just martial arts after. You'll find my videos on there. I try and upload at least once every 2 weeks. I'll try and do a couple of one or two YouTube short videos as just quick demonstrations, like TikTok videos, but better on there. And that's how you can find me. And I will not disclose my location. This is very secret right here.
Yeah, top secret. You're building the cyborgs, but thank you for coming on anyway, Kieran. I'll put links to everything in the description. And it was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be on here, Sensei Emmett. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first podcast. I'm loving it.
First podcast. Excellent job. Thank you, Nick.
Take care.